You're locked into the Hal Sparks radio program. Mega Worldwide.
We have been, we've reached the 6 month point of the mid-year anniversary, as it were, if you can call it that, of the Ukraine war, the Russian war on Ukraine, and this war, by the way, is another example of Biden being right and saying, "I told you so." And these guys, there's no way Russia isn't going in. They're going to do it. Even Zelensky and those guys were like, "I'm not sure they do this all the time." And the U.S., with all of our intelligence, uniquely in our history, was saying, "No, you don't understand. We know they're coming in. We've heard. We don't want to tell you how we know, because then you're going to figure out. They're going to figure out where the bugs are and who's telling us. But we know that this is going to happen." And there was, like the 2 weeks leading up to it, Fox News, all these other sites, like, Biden's trying to start this war. Biden's trying to he wants this to happen or something, which is weird and absurd. But he was just simply, no, this is a fait accompli. They've decided to do this. This was, and anybody who's been following sort of the demographics and the economics of Russia knows that this was always going to happen. It was a matter of, when, not if. Mm-hmm. Russia is, just like China, is facing demographic collapse. They are economically reliant on oil and gas. They make nothing. They have increasingly, but for the bravery of their astronauts, and hats off to the Russian people that are pushing back on this war. We see you even if they scoop you off the street and hide you someplace. We know you still exist. But for their Russians, but for the Russian astronauts, they haven't been a plus in terms of the space program and our relation with them in ages. It's just been a good place to launch from. And we've been supporting that as much as anybody else. But they haven't been the big contributor during this process. So Russia's narrow, and this is what happens when oligarchs run the place and the diversity of the economy tightens, around their interests. The quickest, most reliable, direct cash that's the easiest to hide. That's resource-based capitalism. The United States moved away from resource-based capitalism decades ago. The Industrial Revolution was the first example of that. That while we got steel and other things out of the ground, we used them here to make stuff that were, buildings, cars, all kinds of stuff. And then we became an invention society for the most part. Yes, we supply oil and gas to the world, but the vast majority of our exports are intellectual property and invention, patents. And that's been crucial to our success. The diversity of thought, diversity of invention, diversity of industry in our country. When you centralize the power structure of your country, and as much as people wanted to call like Obama a king or even Trump a dictator, the truth is we have decentralized power in the United States, and that's a good thing. We have states which have a tremendous power within their areas. We also have the House and the Senate and the presidency and the Supreme Court. And the Republicans have been trying to unify that power structure because that's the only way they think they can win. And no matter who you are, no matter what your political leanings are, once you try to unify on that great a scale and you wipe out the diversity of thought or political philosophy even within something, you end up with Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping. Right now, the greatest examples of centralized power collapse in human history, short of Mao and Stalin, I would suppose, or any kingdom, any monarchical kingdom that was wiped out during, anywhere from the 12th to the 16th century worldwide. Once you isolate it, this is why monarchies ultimately fail, unless they start pretending to be democracies or parliamentary democracies or republics like England has been, or Finland, or rather Sweden. They will fall apart. And Russia decided at some point that the easiest thing to sell is the stuff that's in the ground, and the easiest stuff to make is disposable items where when the product fails, the person using it more than likely dies, so you don't get any bad Yelp reviews. And hence, military gear is their other biggest export. If they send out a crappy tank to a country like North Korea or somebody like that, by the time it fails, that person has died using it. Missiles, airplanes, that kind of stuff. And so there's never been Russia, and this is maybe why they get along with Trump so well. Russia has never seen in the modern era, a true comeuppance for what they did. Now, the fall of the Soviet Union is a totally different thing, and I'm increasingly of the mind that it was a rope-a-dope by the KGB types, that we'll just pretend to play nice because we're definitely losing this fight, and in 2 decades we'll come back around. Everybody is aware of the Chinese 2050 plan. The Russians had a similar one, and they've been aligning for a long time about this. And Russia there's the reason why Russia has some of the best chess masters in the world, and why they developed them, because they think in terms of strategic design in those areas. So it would not be surprising if ultimately books were written on the early 90s that Glasnost and all that stuff was just a show so that they could run around and play on the West's naivete and movement towards open markets. Like, hey, good, all right, we don't care who your president is, as long as the people get to pick their leaders. And we'll trade with you if you want anything we got, and you got anything we want. Let's talk, which is wholly different from how China and Russia run these days, especially now. That system, the oligarchical system in Russia, is in utter collapse, and this issue, the kitty, and this issue, around the Ukrainian war is a prime example of that. Because Russia is going to war with inadequate military personnel, poorly trained, not adequate to the job. They're having to hire mercenaries. The mercenaries themselves, the Spetsnaz fighters and the Wagner Group, have been firing on each other in different areas of the Donbass. Let me say that again. The Wagner Group, the Russian mercenary group that they send everywhere to kill people, with, by the way, the tacit approval of the government, unlike, Xi or Blackwater, those kind of things where the American people are like, yeah, no, there's none of that in the Russian system. These are supposed to be well integrated. It's understood that this is a good thing, this kind of contract fighter use. They're shooting at the Spetsnaz guys. There's like for lack of a better phrase, a urinating contest that broke out between them and turned into hot war. And friendly fire is not what I would call it, John Doe. It is unfriendly fire. Friendly fire is accidental. Friendly fire is you don't know those people on the other side of the ridge are your guys, or you think that, or you accidentally fire on people who are one brigade ahead of you. They come up out of the trench and you guys are firing across and they get hit. That's friendly fire. This is open warfare between two different sects of Russian fighters on their own battlefield. It's nuts. Okay, so that in and of itself is, madness. But their own, Shoigu and all the Russian guys, we've talked about this with Philip and others, that the gear they have, the parts of it have been sold for scrap or to other countries just through graft. Because the expectation was, he always says we're going in there. We're not going in there. And then when you finally go in, you're like, yeah, but I can't build you 10 tanks right now. I sold the parts, all the insides. They look great on the outside, but they're empty. That kind of problem is what they're facing right now. And right now, a similar thing is happening in China. Because of climate issues, of which China has quickly become the worst actor on the planet about this. that has the means and wherewithal. There are other countries like India, for example, that in using coal firing plants and that kind of stuff to get their energy are major contributors to global climate change, but don't have the resources to be able to fix it. China could, but hasn't been. And I have to take a break, but I want to talk about this. Have you seen the rivers in China, the videos of the rivers in China, Johnny? I doubt it. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.